All right, good morning, good afternoon, man. Good afternoon, good afternoon. It's about right after 12 o'clock. I'm taking this video. Probably will be uploaded a little bit later. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to get into a quick preview of the 10 Toes Down show tonight. And I really want to have a discussion now that the season is over. I really want to have a discussion about why the average fan and fans, we have a hard time really judging teams because this is, now that, the season is over, OKC is a champion, right? OKC, a team that was in the lottery a couple of years ago, just a few years ago, 2022, right? They had drafted Chet Holmgren, improved to 40 wins. The last year they were the 1 seed, got knocked out in the second round, and this year, and we're already talking about asterisks on the championship and all that. Bro, that's not how anything works. But it's very important. I think this is a very important subject because we spend so much time debating players versus player, this versus this, player versus player. Looking at teams where this team had Jordan and Pippen, they were the super team. This team had Wade and Bosh and LeBron. This was a super team. And we're not judging, not understanding that teams are, especially today, and as you saw the way the finals played out, everybody was important. Caruso was important, McConnell was important, Obi Toppin was important, Lou Dort was important. We go back and we look at teams and we just judge teams off of 2-3 names. And that's the issue. That's the issue, right? I do a lot of optimistic Knicks fan segments, and it's like I think most Knicks fans understand that we need everybody on that roster for the roster to be, its optimal best peak to compete for a championship. As you've seen, like how many times we just watched the final go 7 games. Obviously, the Halliburton injury early on changed the tone of the game a little bit. I felt that T.J. McConnell stepped up and did an admirable job. The Pacers had the lead at halftime. And then in the second half, you kind of seen why T.J. McConnell isn't a starter. I mean, there's always like a certain level of gas he gives you, but he is so important to a team in his role. You see why he's not a starter, but you see why he's important, to any team's second unit, And, as you see, now, trying to get that championship, we've seen it. We've seen Kevin Durant do it. Trying to get Golden State over the hump towards Achilles, right? Klay Thompson in that same series towards ACL, then he would further towards tear his Achilles. And it's funny because in the emergence of that, Jordan Poole became a thing, right? Jordan Poole became a guy who stepped up. I mean, he was already kind of catching wind, but then he had an opportunity to be the man at shooting guard once Klay was hurt a couple of years. Klay comes back. Poole is trying to, obviously the situation with Poole got to a head when him and Draymond got into that fight, and Draymond snuffed him. They chose to stay with Draymond instead of Poole after investing all the money into him. But I just really want to get into that because that's what I mean. This is the things that I'm talking about. The things that I'm talking about, this is why it's important. Team, chemistry. What were the relationships like? Did the team have depth? We go back, we judge a lot of these teams, we look at a lot of these teams, and we say, oh, this team was trash. I don't see enough Hall of Fame names. And it's gotten to the point where people will really tell me 2 players, and that's the reason why, again, LeBron and Luka last year. And now the idea is, I'm seeing articles that they're the favorite to trade for Bam Adebayo. Now, if they trade for Bam Adebayo, you gotta imagine at least 4 major rotational pieces are gonna go. It's not gonna make a good team. It's not gonna make a good team. As I say, that model of building your team out around 3 max guys and have very little by way of experienced role players is not the best way, unless you have young players you've developed and it's, so already, right? Them being the favorite, I really don't believe it, because as I've seen Austin Reeves and Don't Connect, 2 guys who play the same position, have the same defensive issues, do pretty much the same thing, are being offered for everybody from Giannis to goddamn Bam Adebayo. Well, I mean, the idea that you're taking 2 defensively challenged shooting guards. Look, if you're trying to hit the 3, I'm like, again, they make that trade. What is Miami doing with Hero, Connect, and Austin Reeves on the same team? Make that make sense to me. Make that make sense. I'm just saying, it is what it is, but you know what? If Pat Riley goes for it, he goes for it. Obviously, if he's going to move Bam, I believe that the report is bullshit, but if he's going to, but see, a lot of people think that. And again, when you judge trades, we just saw the big blockbuster trade with Kevin Durant. Now again, Kevin Durant, clearly the best player. Does he have the best long-term upside? No. Jalen Green was the second pick in the draft, just like a Durant was. Jalen Green is expected to be, and we've seen, again, he's only 23 years old, but we've seen a lot of the limitations in his game, right? We've seen a lot of the limitations in his game where he was damn near unplayable in that first round series, right? Went 7 games. His jump shot needs a lot to be tried, so does his point guarding skills. So, is he the point guard of Phoenix's future? Who knows? Can they go to a 3-guard? Can they go to a 3-guard attack with Green, Beal, and Booker? Because as far as I know, it's going to be hard to get rid of Beal. With him having that no trade clause. So, again, a lot of people, when talking about teams, both in hindsight and in prognostication, they have a hard time really judging what they see. This is what, again, I'm not trying to act like I'm the end-all be-all, but I do know what I'm talking about because I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of teams develop. Again, a lot of times, I've seen OKC develop. I didn't watch it closely, but I monitored them enough to know OKC was going to be a team. Detroit, they're going to be a team. Look, going in the East now, with the 3 major players having Achilles injuries, and we don't expect to see them. Even if you do, you're not going to get 100% out of either of them. Now you got Halliburton, Lillard, and Tatum having, these are 1 or 2 guys on 3 of the top 5 seeds from last year. So now you're going to look at the Knicks, you're going to look at the Knicks, Orlando, Detroit, Cleveland, because Cleveland avoided a catastrophic injury, but Cleveland has, as I said a couple of times, great team. They have a coaching issue now. There's a lot of people in that fan base and in that locker room that want to understand why guys were not suiting up in the playoffs. Right? They took a loss in 5 games in the second round to an underdog. But Cleveland will be there. All right? So the moves that need to be made, we already seen another trade go down with Drew Holiday The Celtics get younger. The Celtics get younger, and they actually got a couple of picks. So that goes to show you that it's funny because Portland had bought out Drew Holiday, or they traded him back to Boston. So they traded him to Boston. Now they're getting him back for Boston, and they got picks, and now they're giving picks back. So it's quite something. Drew Holiday, obviously, his best years are behind him. Who knows what Portland. Well, maybe Holiday is the guy, the veteran leadership that can help that young Portland team become. Because Portland is one of those teams, the non-playoff teams, that actually impressed me with their fight and battle. So again, but I'm going to try to get into in further detail on tonight's show, is how we're judging teams. We're judging them off names. Again, I had FYF come on Zay's live stream when we were having a fun debate with his cousin. And again, we were beating his cousin up. And props to FYF, because he evened up the playing field, right? He gave LeBron, again, it really was a LeBron versus Kobe debate, which stemmed from a discussion on what the Lakers need to do to get better. So it delved into that, and it was really a fundamental LeBron versus Kobe debate, which again, player for player debates. But this is what we get. Once we get into that, once we get into those type of debates, fans do not, a lot of fans, I'm not trying to condescend or talk down to it, but a lot of fans have a hard time judging just how great these teams are, or just what make a team tick. And you're just naming off names in hindsight. Like I said, J.R. Smith is 5 times the player that Steve Nash was. Let's keep it a stack. J.R. Smith was a way better player than Steve Nash. But what do we get? What do we get? J.R. Smith performed better in the finals. But what do we get? J.R. Smith is a punchline. Despite better performance, despite being the better player, Steve Kerr gets ultimate respect. And again, it's because hindsight shows Steve Kerr has 4 championship rings. J.R. Smith has the one where he performed very well. He played great defense on Steph Curry, but gets very little credit. That's another conversation in itself. But I just want that perspective to be had. I mean, it's 2 things. If you're drafting, you're picking as J.R. Smith way before Steve Kerr. There's not even a question. But see, and again, I'm just discussing role players. J.R. Smith had the potential to be the number 1, 2, or 3, like the number 2 or 3 guy on a great team. Kerr was just a situational shot maker. And again, J.R. Smith, bro, it was be times where dude was just unconscious. I mean, he has multiple games of 8, 9, 10 threes in a game. If you get J.R. Smith the rock and he's hot, I mean, there's not 5 other guys. There's not 5 other guys that I want on the floor when he's that hot, on fire. While Steve Kerr was more of just an accurate, draw a play, get him open somehow, and you can count on that streak dropping. J.R. Smith was more of a creator. J.R. Smith could create his own shot. I know with Cleveland and L.A., when he got his 2 rings, he was used more in a catch-and-shoot role, but J.R. Smith at his best was amazing. So again, when it comes down to that rebounders, does a team have enough rebound? Does a team have enough elements? And I know we've gone to a whole different style of play today, which again skews how people look at teams. But as I say, man, as I say, we really, really need to take a look, especially going forward, especially going to a situation where the chip is going to be wide open. Everybody's going to say OKC has got a good chance to go back-to-back, which they probably do. But it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. It was hard for them to beat an Indiana team we all thought they were better than. This age of the NBA has the most parity we've probably seen in NBA history. Maybe since the set. Maybe if any other time had more parity, it would be the 70s, where no team repeated. Only two teams won multiple championships in the decade. That would be the Knicks and the Celtics. That would be, the Lakers could say at 72 and then they won again in 80, but that would, technically they won the championship in the 80s. That would be the most, again, and that was a thing with Cleveland. See, we had Denver, we had Milwaukee, we have OKC. You know what I'm saying? Teams that no one, that never won championships in their history. Obviously, the franchise of the Thunder until they give the Sonics back. Their last championship was '79. But you got teams that are not the usual suspects that really got a shot to win. I'm gonna tell you right now, there's about 13 teams. 14 teams. I'll name those teams, and I'll tell you why. They got a legit shot to win the championship next year. I'll start naming them now. Let's start with the Knicks. I think the Knicks will be the first seed, in depending on what, again, it depends on what we do with the coaching. But I think the Knicks are set up to be the first seed. Cleveland, Orlando. I mean, Boston is even in there without Tatum. They're going the Simons route, right? Simons, again, they're deep, but I'm not going to call them a favorite by any chance, but they got a shot. Orlando, I'm thinking in the East, Detroit. So I think it's 6 teams in the East. Milwaukee, because they got Giannis, so that's 7. 7 teams with a legit shot. A real legit shot. Now, let's go out west. OKC, of course. Denver, of course. Houston, of course, right? Kevin Durant raises the stakes, and really, they better be in the conference finals. Golden State, yes, the experience factor. They need to get some youth in that. Need to get some youth in that lineup. So you got Golden State. That's 4. What I name? I name OKC, Denver, Houston, Golden State. Sacramento, no. The Clippers. Clippers are tough. I don't see it, but with Kawhi there, I mean, we're going to stick to the theme that's wide open. I don't see it because, again, I want the star power and youth. That's a theme, man. You got to have young guns. You got to have young legs to get through this season. The season is now a marathon, and nobody, and I mean nobody, is that far and away more talented. Now, of course, we're going to talk about the Lakers, because the Lakers obviously got the star power. What they desperately need, what the Lakers desperately need, is youth. And they need, they don't have young prospects. The young prospects that they have, I mean, Reeves is already 27, 28 years old, right? Connect was another 4-year player. He's in his 20s. They're already looking to trade for another star. So, and I don't see anybody really athletic, springy enough. If LeBron is the best athlete on the Lakers next year at 41 years old, the Lakers are in trouble. So I'm going to keep them out of it for now. And this is not hating. I just gave you the reason. You don't have young, springy type players, you're not going to be a good team. I think the Lakers might not make the playoffs next year. All right? I think the Lakers might not make the playoffs next year. So if I'm thinking of two dark horses out there, Minnesota, of course. Minnesota has to get a point guard. I said they can make a deep playoff run, but without a point guard, Phoenix is done. Phoenix is in trouble. I don't understand. I mean, they did fleece. You know what? Dylan Brooks, Green. Let's see what that's Phoenix. So that's 14 teams that I can conceivably see win next year. You know, so yeah. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into judging teams. And like I said, 14 teams got a legit shot. And then we're gonna have the all season and all the moves. And we're gonna see who really swings themselves into contention. All right.